The story is of 10th April 1912. The RMS Titanic, the world's largest and most luxurious ship of its time, started its first voyage. This ship was going from Southampton, London to New York, and inside it were people of all kinds, from big industrialists and actors to immigrants who were traveling to America in search of better life. The command of the ship was in the hand of a 62-year-old senior captain Edward J. Smith. Among the passengers and in the public and media, there was a lot of excitement about Titanic. Not only was it the world's largest ship, it's 269 meters in length and more than 50 meters high. But the luxury used in building it was breathtaking for that era. The cost to build this ship was $7.5 million, which adjusted for inflation equal around $400 million today. The facilities and decoration inside the ship left even five-star hotels behind. Stained glass window, ornate wood paneling, two large grand staircases, a heated swimming pool, Turkish bath, electric bath, a gym, a squash court, four restaurants, two barber shop, and even a library. And moreover, the safety features used in building the Titanic made people believe it was unsinkable. The ship that could never sink. The company that built it was White Star Line, and the vice president of the company, Philip A.S. Franklin, was so confident that he publicly declared that this ship was unsinkable. But just 2 days after starting its first journey on 12th April 1912, Titanic began receiving its first ice warning, meaning in the Atlantic Ocean, the route Titanic was taking towards America had ice present. Huge mountain of ice, icebergs, which were dangerous for the ship. These warnings were not unusual. Ships often communicated with each other via radio to inform about dangerous icy area and to proceed carefully. After receiving these warnings, Titanic changed its course twice and avoid danger, but it did not reduce its speed. It kept going at 21.5 knots, about 40 kilometers per hour, towards its destination. 2 days later, on 14th April 1912, Titanic received 7 more ice warnings, but Captain Smith and his crew ignored them and did not reduce the ship's speed. Slowly, the sun set, night fell, and the temperature dropped. The special thing about the night of 14 April was there was no moon. But no moonlight, that means visibility was very low. On the ship, there is a crow's nest, a small lookout platform placed at great height. Someone is always stationed there to watch ahead for traffic or obstacle. The person sitting there had a face bitter cold, with fast, icy wind blowing. At night, because of the freezing winds, tears would come from the ice, making it even harder to see ahead. At 11:39 p.m., a man named Frederick Fleet, who was in the crow's nest, suddenly saw a huge iceberg in front of the ship. He immediately rang the bell 3 times to alert those below, picked up the phone and shouted to the officer on the bridge, "There is an iceberg ahead of us. Quickly turn the ship." First officer William Murdoch on the bridge heard the instruction and immediately sent the message to the engine room to turn the ship to the left. But unfortunately, it was too late. Just 1 minute later, at 11:40 p.m., the ship collided with the iceberg.
Titanic was a new breed of luxury liner.
Titanic left port in Southampton, England.
Among her passengers were many of the wealthy and influential. The band played the gayest tunes and American ragtime dancers. The time was 11:40.
The iceberg grazed the right side of the ship.
And all of a sudden she lifted up quickly. Everything that was movable was going through her.
I didn't think it was serious because I didn't think it was.
This iceberg was not small. It was about 200 to 400 feet, the size of a football field, and its heights reached up to the crow's nest. Scientists estimated its weight was 1.5 million tons. The collision happened on the front right side of the ship near the bow. For about 10 seconds, the Titanic scraped along the iceberg, leaving a massive dent and tearing small holes into the ship's main body. You might wonder, how can a block of ice cut through metal? If you use ice from your fridge, of course it won't cut metal. But remember, an iceberg weighs millions of tons. Even wood cannot cut metal. But if your metal car crashes into a tree, it gets crushed. Similarly, the sheer weight and size of iceberg badly damaged Titanic. Second after the collision, Captain Smith and ship architect Thomas Andrew rushed to inspect the damage. On seeing it, they were shocked. The ship would sink. They had believed Titanic could never sink. As I mentioned earlier, Titanic was considered unsinkable because of two main safety features. It had double bottom hull, meaning two layers. If one layer broke, the second could still protect. The entire hull was divided into 16 watertight compartments. Even if 4 compartments filled with water, the ship would still float. But since the impact was on the side of the ship, the double bottom hull was useless, and the damage was so severe that 6 compartments were breached and water started flooding them. The limit was 4, with 6 flooded. The ship could no longer be saved. Even the unsinkable Titanic would now sink. 20 minutes after the collision, at 12 midnight, Captain Smith ordered his crew to send a distress call by radio. Senior operator Jack Phillips, the hero of the story, kept sending repeated distress signals. At first, no response came, but after 20 minutes, at 12:20 am, the ship called RMS Carpathia, located about 107 kilometers away, received the signal and promised to head towards Titanic. But even at the full speed, Carpathia would take 3.5 hours to reach. Could Titanic survive that long? Meanwhile, flares and rockets were fired into the sky in the hope that other nearby ships might see them. Unfortunately, apart from Carpathia, no ship responded. The captain then gave the order to evacuate passengers using lifeboat. According to protocol, women and children were given first priority. Most passengers were not very afraid at first, as still believed Titanic was unsinkable. Because of this belief, the first lifeboat launched with a capacity of 65 people, left with only 28 passengers on board. Many lifeboats went half empty. But as the ship continued tilting and more compartments flooded, panic spread. By 1 am, the bow was submerged and the stern rose out of the water, exposing the propeller. By then, chaos erupted. People fought to get into lifeboat. The biggest problem was that there were only 20 lifeboats, which could hold about 1,200 people, while there were 2,200 passengers on board. The last lifeboat was lowered at 2 am, but still 1,500 people remained on board. Some tried desperately to get into lifeboats. Others accepted their fate and stayed behind.
The end, it was chaotic at the end. Everybody was crying, praying, trying to get into the few lifeboats that were left. No, it was
At around 2:20 am, eyewitnesses say that Titanic broke into two pieces and slowly sank beneath the sea. In less than 3 hours, the unsinkable ship had sunk. The 1,500 people left on board either drowned with the ship or died in freezing water of -2 degrees Celsius from hypothermia within minutes. Captain Edward Smith is said to have stayed at the wheel and gone down with the ship. Others believe he shot himself. The RMS Carpathia arrived between 3:30 to 4 am, an hour too late to save those still in the water. But it managed to rescue 705 survivors in the lifeboat. Inquiries later revealed shocking facts. Another ship, the SS Californian, was just 37 kilometers away that night. At 11:15 p.m., its radio operator had turned off the set, so it did not receive Titanic's distress call. Passenger on Titanic could even see Californian on the horizon. Its crew even saw Titanic's distress rocket, but Captain Stanley Lord dismissed them, thinking it was a party. If Californian responded, many lives could have been saved. Blame was put on Captain Lord, but other mistakes also played a role. Titanic carried too few lifeboats because the company believed it was unsinkable. No safety drill had been conducted. The very day Titanic hit the iceberg, a drill had been cancelled by Captain Smith. Also, at the moment of the iceberg warning, helmsman Robert Hinchins misunderstood the steering command and turned the wheel the wrong way. Investigation also found that Titanic was sailing at full speed despite multiple ice warnings. A popular theory suggests that Joseph Bruce Ismay, chairman of White Star Line, pressured Captain Smith to maintain the speed so that Titanic could complete its maiden voyage in just 6 days, setting a record as the largest, most luxurious, and fastest ship. The disaster forever changed the shipping industry. In 1914, the International Ice Patrol was established to monitor icebergs. The SOLAS Treaty, Safety of Life at Sea, set new standards including enough lifeboats for every passenger. Titanic's wreck took over 70 years to be found. Discovered in September 1985 by American explorer Robert Ballard and a French team, it lays 3,800 meters deep, in two pieces 600 meters apart. Today, after more than 110 years, bacteria and organisms are eating away its structure, and scientists believe by 2030 it may completely disappear. Even so, fascination with Titanic continues. In 2012, Australian billionaire Clive Palmer announced plan to build Titanic 2, an exact replica to sail the same route. The project faced delay, and as of 2022, it still wasn't completed. Many believe people may not be interested in such a ship because it would lack modern comfort like Wi Fi or televisions. So perhaps Titanic 2 sank even before it's been built. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel.